What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another edition of the Triple Threat Show. As always, I'm your host, Mayor of Tummy, back at it on an early Thursday morning. Usually I'm in the midday. Usually I'm a midday kind of guy, midday show kind of guy. We're starting it off early. We have a lot to get into. First of all, I'm going to say this first and foremost before all the questions come in. If you guys want to catch all my coverage about the NFL draft, first of all, check out Jeremy and Nolan's video on YouTube at the Triple Threat Show. We post all of our content on there. All the recordings for the shows are on there. But those boys just did a mock draft last night. I'm gonna let those boys, those guys, the aficionados when it comes to the NFL draft. I know a little bit. I know a thing or two when it comes to the NFL draft. I know Fernando Mendoza is gonna be the number one overall pick. I know Caleb Downs is gonna be a top 3 pick. But outside of that, your boy ain't the biggest NFL draft kind of guy. He's not. It's usually Jeremy. It's Nolan. Those boys got that all taken care of. Be sure to check out the recording of all that of the mock draft. I'll be back later tonight on here as well to do a live react to the NFL draft. If you guys want to catch all my coverage with that, I'll have Jeremy with me on the panel as well. We can bring some live guests on as well. So we can do some, like I said, some you guys can request to join up. We'll have some conversations about it in the middle of the draft. No worries at all, especially when teams are on the clock. But yeah, boys, let's just get everyone, boys, girls, ladies and gentlemen, everybody. Let's get right into it. We saw the NBA in full-fledged last night. NBA, we saw 2 games. One, a little bit controversial, absolutely controversial. On the other side, you saw the Detroit Pistons finally take it to the Orlando Magic, finally show what the Orlando Magic, what they're all about. We're going to dive into all of that. And the NHL in full effect as well. Another double overtime game, late night game on the East Coast. We saw a phenomenal game between the Edmonton Oilers and Anaheim Ducks. Back and forth we go as the Ducks tie that series up at 1 game apiece. And we'll preview the rest of the series going on tonight. Like I said, though, drop a follow here at Boston Sports Takes. We go live every single show on YouTube at the Triple Threat Show, on all of our socials, on TikTok, YouTube. Well, I just went through those. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, social media, you can find us everywhere and anywhere. But let's get right on into it. And, of course, you know your boy's got his tea and he's ready to go. It wouldn't be another episode of the Triple Threat Show without it. But let's get right on into it, guys, because we have a lot to talk about. 2.5 minute intro. I want to start with the NBA. I'm going to start with Devin Booker and whatever the fiasco we saw with the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Phoenix Suns. At some point or another, if you're a fan of the NBA, and this is something we've talked about a bunch of times here, because we know, everybody, if you're a fan of basketball, you know at this point what the Oklahoma City Thunder are, what Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has been doing, how good of a player he is, but how much they foul bait, how much they sometimes get specific calls that you just sit there and you just have to sit there and scratch your head. The calls that aren't fair on both sides, and that's what we saw last night. It's plain and simple calls that were not fair on both sides. Devin Booker on one play, running out of bounds, just trying to save the ball, goes running into Oklahoma City bench, throws the ball at Jalen Williams, not intentionally, just to keep the ball in bounds, misses, but unfortunately hits Jalen Williams in the back with the ball. You know what the ref does? Calls a tech on Devin Booker. And you can see in the background, Alex Caruso is sitting there casually smiling and laughing as the refs decide to give that technical foul. On another play, SGA goes flying into Devin Booker. They call that a foul. But earlier in the game, Devin Booker's just doing a pull-up baseline fadeaway jumper. The exact same move, honestly, much less unnatural, because that's... And the ref decides to call an offensive foul against Devin Booker for an unnatural play, unnatural act. The same exact move that Chet Holmgren made, that SGA made in almost the exact same spot. This is the type of stuff we're talking about. And on top of all that, the reason why this is a big deal, this was already a big deal, but it's what Devin Booker said post-game. I'm going to let you guys all see and hear that. If you guys didn't know what's going on in the NBA today, there was a lot going on across the world of the NBA. Let me get right on into it with that. I can't switch it? Oh my. Well, I'll let you guys just hear it real quick, because apparently I can't show it. This shit sucks.
Was confused. I don't know if you're aware this, but even the broadcast was confused by your tech. What was the explanation that you got?
I still haven't got one.
This is Devin Booker on the mic.
Definitely something that has to be looked into. I heard Caruso tell him to call the tech, and he ended up doing it. So that's one ref. In my 11 years, I haven't called a ref out by name, but James was terrible tonight, through and through. It's bad for the sport, bad for the integrity of the sport. People are going to start viewing this as a WWE, if they're not held responsible.
Similar thing for you on the offensive foul with Caruso, where you didn't get an explanation there either?
Yeah, and then the very next play said unnatural shooting motion that hit Caruso, but Caruso's moving forward on that. And if that's unnatural shooting motion compared to what guys are doing to get fouls nowadays, like you can play them side by side, and I'll let you guys be the judge. Like, pull the clips, run it back. I'm surprised this is happening on national TV in playoff games.
Look, how hard is that to play through?
It's hard. It just feels disrespectful. I know I haven't won a championship in this league, but I have been in it for 11 years now. So to get to this point, to be treated like that, for me to even be saying something out loud, it's bad.
Have you ever done something? I mean, have you ever? I don't think I can recall you talking about the officials.
Yeah, it's my first time in 11 years, but it's needed. Like I said, whatever I get fined for, everybody can pull the clips and see where the frustration comes from.
That was Devin Booker on the mic talking about it. That was Devin Booker letting everybody know what he's been dealing with the Oklahoma City Thunder. What he dealt with last night. This is a guy in Devin Booker that never opens his mouth. He literally said in the press conference, post-game press conference, he has never opened his mouth and actually said something like this about a player, about a referee. He called the ref out by name. That's never happened in a press conference. And this is something that continues to happen. We all remember the press conference with J.B. Bickerstaff after the Pistons lost to the Thunder in that overtime game without Cade Cunningham in March. We all remember that press conference with Mike Brown and Jaylen Brown from the Celtics. Mike Brown with the Knicks when the Knicks played them, along with when the Celtics played them twice. This is something that is consistently happening in the NBA with this team. This team being the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Oklahoma City Thunder somehow, someway, continuing to find a way to get away with calls, to get away with what they feel is their right, what they feel is they're just being let off the hook for. Consistently. It's not once, it's not twice, it's not 3 times. It is over and over and over again. This is what we're seeing with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, are they still a damn good basketball team? Yes. Do they still have one of the most loaded rosters in the NBA? Absolutely. But do I think the Phoenix Suns and Devin Booker got absolutely hosed last night? Yes, they did. They got thoroughly hosed. Devin Booker and Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks played a phenomenal game. They maybe not. Well, I'll take that back because nobody played it perfect. They didn't play a perfect game, but they played a pretty good first half. They played pretty good defense. They kept it close within 10 points most of the way. And then every time they would get close, they would cut the lead to like 8 or 6 points. Sometimes they even cut it to 4 before the second half. And then all that nonsense happened. The offensive foul. I'll probably post a video about it later today showing everything that you guys need to know. Everybody on the internet has been backing Devin Booker, by the way. Every single person that's not a Thunder fan. Which, at this point, I'm pretty much convinced that every Thunder fan is just a bandwagon at this point. Because at this point, how many times do you have to look at what this team is doing and you just consistently just want to throw a blind eye to it? Just say, it's just basketball, bro. Everybody does it. Look what James Harden's doing. Look what Jamal Murray's doing. They might individually do it at times, especially Jamal Murray. We know what he is. He foul baits. But it's not every game. It's not the entire team. It's not some of these calls, and it's not just a one way. It's not a one-way train with some of these calls like the way it is with the Thunder. Last night was one of the worst officiating nights I've ever seen. Like I said, I'll post a video about it here on TikTok later today, so you guys just be on the lookout for that. It'll be there. But with what the Thunder did last night, the Suns have every right to be pissed. If you want to go down the box score and you really want to do that, sure. Dylan Brooks had 30. Devin Booker had 20. Jalen Green had 20. Royce O'Neal had 16. Colin Gillespie and Oso Iguodala were playing great defense and hustle basketball everywhere you looked. Iguodala was 7, 8, and 5. Gillespie was 7, 6, and 6. These guys played their hearts out. These guys played as close and as perfect of a game as you can against this Thunder team without a bona fide superstar. And yes, Devin Booker might be a bona fide superstar, but the Suns aren't what the Suns weren't supposed to compete with the Thunder. We all knew the Thunder were going to obliterate them because we know their talent disparity is good enough. But for the Suns to actually go out there and give the Thunder a legit test, and this is the way that the NBA decides to repay them for their efforts, instead of making this game competitive and letting calls go, they're deciding to not only make those calls, but honestly flip them against the Phoenix Suns. It was an absolute atrocity that what we saw in OKC. And I think Devin Booker is completely right. He's completely justified with his comments. I was going to post Dylan Brooks' snippet. He went off as well in his post-game press conference as well, talking about how the entire team, he didn't mention just Shea, even though players have named just Shea, but it wasn't just Shea last night. Flailing, flopping, just trying to draw calls for no reason instead of trying to play the game of basketball, trying to cheat the game by getting extra shots at the free throw line instead of trying to put your head down and get to the basket. At some point at the end, the officials just got to stop blowing the whistle. They have to swallow their whistle and just let the game play out. If they want to play physical against one another, play physical. If you want to just go at each other, I'm not saying full out fight one another, but be able to throw a shoulder every now and again in the paint. Be able to have two centers go at it in the paint. Play solid defense. Not just touch foul nonsense. That's what you saw last night. Like, the biggest thing I can really describe it as is like when a player, either we saw it with SGA, we saw it with Chet Holmgren, we see it with Jalen Williams, when they do a pump fake, they get the defender jumping, and then they just jump into them and want to throw the ball up, trying to draw a foul. I can't tell you the amount of times that happened last night. And yes, it happens across the NBA. It's not okay. It's not good. But with what the Suns do, with what the Thunder do collectively, they're trying to make it okay for everybody else to do it. And the second that happens, yes, it turns into a WWE. Yes, it turns into a soft sport. Yes, it ruins the integrity of the game of basketball. The game of basketball that we've all grown up and loved. If you guys are genuine basketball fans, genuine fans of the NBA, this is not what you want to see with what the NBA is turning out to be. We saw it last year. We let it pass. This entire year has been even worse, and it's continued in the playoffs. And if it continues like this throughout the NBA playoffs, the NBA is going to turn into a joke. Flat out. Because you cannot have this in the most crucial moments, in the biggest games, with everybody watching, just trying to watch two competitive teams go at it, and you're going to start calling fouls like this, and not even just call them sometimes for both teams. Call them literally for one team and screw over the other team. I'm a fan of the game. So I actually try to watch the game for what it is, but that's the truth. I'm not answering that question, user. You can get up out of my chat. But yeah, no. It was just a crazy turn of events. Let's switch gears over to the Orlando Magic and the Detroit Pistons. Both of these two teams, the Orlando Magic won Game 1. Detroit Pistons needed to go into Game 2 with a sense of just trying to get after, trying to get this series back under control. Because if you lose game 2 going back to Orlando, you're possibly on sweep watch. If I'm being dead honest with you, you're on sweep watch. Oh my God, my bad. I forgot to turn that off. So you go into game 2. Both teams are playing hard. Orlando's playing Detroit hard. Detroit continues to struggle offensively. It's tied at 46 apiece at halftime. Orlando and Detroit are throwing haymakers at one another. Both are just trading leads. Literally throughout the first half, trading leads. You go into halftime. I don't know what JB Bickerstaff said in that locker room. I wish we could have the tape. I wish we could get a audio recording of what he said in that locker room. But whatever he said, he lit a fire under the Detroit Pistons' asses. The way this team came out in the second half, going on a 33-6 run to start the second half, finishing the third quarter with a 38-16 advantage. And yes, the Magic did end up coming back over the last 4 minutes. But congratulations. The Detroit Pistons dominated the first 8 minutes of that quarter, and the Magic couldn't even look back. They didn't look back. I mean, the Pistons didn't look back. That's how good they played all the way through. And Cade Cunningham didn't even need to put up 40. It was Jalen Duren getting active on the offensive glass. It was Asher Thompson getting active on the defensive end of the ball, causing turnovers. It was Tobias Harris hitting his shots and getting to the free throw line. Ronald Holland, Dennis Jenkins playing good basketball. The first half, it looked like the Magic were going to out-hustle the Pistons, being able to out-hustle them to extra possessions, rebounds, playing physical with them, because that's the biggest reason this series is even close. It's because the Orlando Magic can match up with them physically, and the physicality effect is just too much for the Pistons to deal with. At the end of the day, the Pistons are still incredibly young. This is their second season in any sort of playoff spotlight. And the Magic took it to them in this game once again. They almost stole a second game. If you looked at it at halftime versus midway through the third quarter looked like two completely different games. To go from tied at 46 apiece to literally with 5 minutes or 4 minutes to go, it was 74 to 49 in favor of the Detroit Pistons. That's what we're talking about here with this Detroit Pistons team. This was a big time win for them. I expected the Pistons to win this game, but not in the fashion they did. They looked like the team that won 60 games. They looked like the team that won the Eastern Conference, won the top seed in the Eastern Conference. They look like the best team in one of the best teams in basketball, and a team that can go out there and beat the New York Knicks in the conference finals, beat the Boston Celtics in the conference finals, beat the Cleveland Cavaliers in the next round, and give the Oklahoma City Thunder a run for their money in the finals. That was the team that went out there in Detroit and won that game. For the Detroit Pistons to win their first playoff game since 2008 on their home floor. That's the Detroit Pistons that we saw last night. You got to give them credit where credit is due. The Orlando Magic continued to fight, and yes, they made it close going to the fourth quarter. I think they went on like a 15-0 run at one point. But at the end of the day, it was all about the Pistons. It was all about the consistency, and honestly, the playmaking of Cade Cunningham continues to be the engine for this team. I don't know why. I don't know why, for whatever reason, it has to be Cade Cunningham running the offense. When Cade wasn't in the lineup, it was Dennis Jenkins, and this team was playing much better with their role players. Cade comes back, and they're struggling to find their roles once again. For whatever reason, it was like that for three halves, from game 1 all the way through the first half of game 2. But the second half of game 2, they found something. They found something in that third quarter that I think they will be able to tap into for the rest of this series. I think game 3 is going to be a tough one for them. I think Detroit is going to give them a lot Orlando's going to give them something a little bit more to think about. I think that crowd that's going to be waiting for Orlando is going to juice them up. And this is like I said, this is a young Detroit Pistons team going on the road to Orlando. Orlando is a much better team at home on their home floor than they are on the road. We've been over this. But this is a Detroit Pistons team that can dominate the way that they did last night at any time. That's what they proved. It's not just about the way that, because honestly, if you looked at the way Detroit shot, 6 of 26 from three, 23% from 3-point range, missing, it only shot 58% from the free throw stripe, missed 10 free throws. This was not their best game whatsoever. This is a Detroit Pistons team that dominated that quarter without even playing their best game. Now, they need to clean up the turnovers. 22 turnovers is insane. Cade Cunningham with 7 of those. But if they can do that, if they can play good, clean basketball, like we know that they can, like we've seen them do all regular season, even though the playoffs are different, this is a Pistons team that's going to be a gauntlet to beat in four games out of 7 games. They're going to be a gauntlet. They're going to be a team that nobody wants to go out there and try to beat. So, yes, Orlando's going to be a tough test for them in Game 3, but we'll be right over there. We'll get there when we get there. Game 3 of that series tips off on Saturday. Same with the Thunder and Suns. Thunder head to Phoenix for that Game 3 on Saturday morning or Saturday early afternoon. But let's switch gears over to today's matchups, because we went over yesterday's matchups. Yesterday's matchups weren't as interesting. There was just a little bit of discussion, a little bit of stuff that happened here and there. But the main stuff that we got to talk about with the NBA is the stuff that's going on tonight. The matchups that are going on tonight tonight is a basketball night. Last night was hockey. Tonight is back to the NBA. The Knicks Hawks to start it off right at 7 o'clock. This is a big-time Game 3 after what we saw in Game 2 with CJ McCollum turning into another villain at MSG. A lot of people are calling him the next villain of MSG, the new Trae Young. And it's justified for the way that CJ McCollum was the best player on the floor in Game 2, at the end of Game 2. And yes, Jalen Brunson hit that clutch 3 that ultimately almost put them in position to win. But it was the playmaking of CJ McCollum down the stretch of the game. It was the shot making. It was him attacking Jalen Brunson and attacking mismatches throughout the course of that game, late down the stretch. It was the Hawks coming back from 14 points down in the fourth quarter. That was the Hawks team that played in Game 2. Yeah, the Knicks played a complete game. Yeah, they had 6 guys that went into double figure scoring. But it was the Hawks that went out and finished and won that game. I expect the Hawks to win again tonight. I do. I think that crowd's going to be ready for them. I think New York, yes, they have the playoff experience to go out there in Atlanta and win in Atlanta. But I think they're going to split. I think Atlanta wins tonight. And then the New York Knicks come out in Game 4 and win Game 4, tying this series at 2 games apiece, sending it back to New York. I originally thought this series was going to go 5. I first thought this series was going to go 7 games. Then after Game 1, with the way that Karl-Anthony Towns played, I thought it was going to be dropped down to 5 games in favor of New York. Now I'm honestly going back to 7 with the way that these two teams are playing, with how close Game 2, both Game 1 and Game 2 was. Game 1, the Atlanta Hawks didn't even shoot the ball that well. Game 2 was where it was at. Now, the biggest question mark, I think, for this team going into Game 3 and going into the rest of this playoffs is going to be the injury to Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I don't know what his injury update is. He struggled in Game 1. He's still on the injury report. I think he's questionable tonight for Game 3. But if Nickeil Alexander-Walker can't go, that's a big-time deal for the Hawks. I think that honestly might sway things back over to the New York Knicks in favor for the Knicks. But if Alexander Walker can play, and he's able to play if he continues to play the way we know him to play at times, we know how he was with the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think I don't know if he's. I know he got hurt in Game 2. I don't know. This is going to be something that we're just going to have to wait and see and watch as this series continues. I can't find it right now. Oh, well. But that's just going to be something that we're going to need to pay attention to and watch as we get closer and get throughout the NBA playoff. Get throughout this game. But that's just Game 1 of 3. The next game we got to get into is the Cleveland Cavaliers and Toronto Raptors. Yes, this is just a series that's 2-0 in favor of the Cavs. Toronto's got no chance. Then you don't know what it's like playing in Toronto. This is going to be a different Toronto Raptors team in Toronto. Yes, the Cleveland Cavaliers have the experience to go up there and win, but I don't think they're going to win tonight. I don't think the Toronto's going to let them go up 2-1 in this series tonight. Emmanuel Quickley is going to be a scratch that we're going to need to watch as well, because we've been talking about it this entire series. When Emmanuel Quickley is on the floor, we saw it throughout the regular season, this team is different. It adds more spacing for the floor. It adds a legitimate point guard on this team, a legitimate ball handler, so Brandon Ingram and Scotty Barnes can play their roles instead of trying to play point guard. It gives just the rest of the guys on the floor more spacing in general. And Emmanuel Quickley is a phenomenal player. Emmanuel Quickley has turned into a 15 and 6 assist kind of guy. 16 and 6 assists. That's how good he's been throughout the regular season. Now he's dealing with a hamstring injury. That's nothing you want to mess with, especially in the playoffs, because one re-injury and you're possibly looking at a torn hamstring or possibly a calf strain, which is the last thing you need. We've seen what calf strings can do, specifically when you look at the Achilles. But with Emmanuel Quickley, if he can go tonight, which he's still questionable, he's listed as questionable for Game 3 and Game 4, then we just need to, if he can go tonight, this Raptors, I think this Raptors team wins in general. But if Quickley can play tonight, I think it would mean like a 10-15 point swing. It's a 10-15 point swing in favor of the Raptors. If he can play in Game 3, in Game 4, we're looking at a 2-2 series going back to Cleveland. And yes, Game 4 is going to be closer than Game 3. But I'm telling you, playing in Jurassic Park, playing in Toronto is a different deal. It's one of the toughest places to play in the NBA, especially in the playoffs. It's one of the most chaotic, one of the loudest environments. And for a team that's still young in the Cleveland Cavaliers with a lot of young players, yes, some of them have playoff experience, but with still a bunch of young players, it's going to be difficult for these guys to get their bearings under them. This is a Cleveland Cavaliers team that's loaded offensively, that's with James Harden playing at possibly the best he's ever played. Donovan Mitchell continuing to play like a playoff performer. He had 30 points. Him and James Harden combining for 58 points in Game 2. Emmanuel Mobley putting in another 25. But if the Raptors can get their guys back, it makes all the difference. Scotty Barnes is going to go for 30 tonight. Brandon Ingram is going to go for 20 tonight. RJ Barrett is going to continue to do his thing. If he can have another good shooting night like he did in Game 2, that's going to make all the difference for this team. So give me the Toronto Raptors tonight to make this, to not go down 3-0. If they go down 3-0, they're going to lose Game 4 and it's a sweep. They are. I think if the Raptors lose Game 3, just pull the plug on Emmanuel Quickley. Don't let him go out there and get injured, because that's the last thing you need if you're Emmanuel Quickley, to miss more time going into next season because you re-injured your hamstring and made it a far worse injury than what it originally was. That's the last thing you want if you're Emmanuel Quickley, especially as a young player. So that's something that we're going to watch. Give me the Raptors to go out there and win Game 3, and we'll be back. That game tips off at 8 o'clock. That's not even the best game of the night, though. We went through the two Eastern Conference matchups, but the last game is in the Western Conference, where the best games are. It's the most heated rivalry in the NBA right now. It's the best series of the NBA playoffs so far, of the first round. And that's the Denver Nuggets and the Minnesota Timberwolves. That's Jaden McDaniels calling the entire Nuggets team the entire Nuggets team bad defenders. Every single one of them. That's David Adelman going into the press conference the next morning and saying, what were those numbers that calling Jaden McDaniels by name, saying I want to see that podcast that he does after the game. What are our numbers? Asking the reporters. Reporters goes, oh, I think we're 6th in defensive efficiency. Oh yeah, send those numbers over to Jaden McDaniels. Let him see those. That's honestly what this series is turning into. It's just it's a heated rivalry. Jokic and Anthony Edwards truly do not like one another. They play sensational basketball against one another. It's Rudy Gobert playing unbelievable defense on Jokic in the first 2 games in Denver. This series now switches over to Minnesota, back on their home floor. The Timberwolves steal Game 2. They have an opportunity they have home court advantage now, because all they have to do now is to win these next 2 games on their home turf, and they can go back to Denver with a 3-1 lead. This is a Nuggets team that's going to be highly motivated tonight. I think both of these teams are going to be highly motivated. This is going to be a really close game all the way down to the wire once again. I'm not expecting it to be a blowout, But if it's going to be a blowout, it's going to be in favor of the Timberwolves. It's going to be in favor of the Timberwolves if it is. I would be shocked. We saw it 2 years ago in Game 4, but like I've said this entire playoffs, this is a different Minnesota Timberwolves team. They don't have Nickeil Alexander-Walker anymore. They don't have Karl-Anthony Towns anymore. Yes, they have like Ayo Dosunmu and Bones Highland and some of these guys, but they don't have the depth and some of the bona fide scorers that they used to have. They don't. And I don't expect the Nuggets to shoot as poorly as they did in the fourth quarter again. Some of that has to go to the defense of the Minnesota Timberwolves, and you have to give them credit. But some of that was also just the exhaustion of Jamal Murray throughout down the stretch. And like I said, they're just not going to shoot as poorly as they did in the fourth quarter like they did in Game 2. That Jokic and Jamal Murray combined 2 for 12 or 2 for 14 in the fourth quarter of Game 2. That's why they lost that game, because their two best scorers got cold. And Christian Braun decided to miss free throws with 30 seconds to go in the game. He did. And that's what it comes down to. When your two best players go ice cold down the stretch and the Timberwolves start making threes, Dante DiVincenzo hitting big shots. Julius Randle as well. Anthony Edwards being a monster, being a man amongst boys. And he didn't even have his best shooting night in Game 2. He put up 30 and 10, but he shot 3 of 11 from 3. He shot 10 for 25 from the field. This is Anthony Edwards that could go off for 40 tonight. And if you're the Denver Nuggets, you got to be prepared and ready for that sort of assault by the Minnesota Timberwolves. It could be really bad if the Nuggets decide to have another bad shooting night. That's why I'm saying it could be a sweep or a blowout. If it's a blowout, it's going to be in favor of the Timberwolves tonight, because they went out there and beat the Denver Nuggets. They came back from 20 points down against the Denver Nuggets in Game 2 in Denver. They played a complete game. They played sensational defense on the best player in the world, in Nikola Jokic. They did everything that they needed to do down the stretch. So give me the Minnesota Timberwolves to win once again tonight. Take a 2-1 lead, and then the Denver Nuggets need to reassess for Game 4. I think I originally said the Nuggets were going to go in Game 3. It's going to be the Timberwolves tonight. If you look at it through and through, if you look at the numbers, if you look at who's due, it's Anthony Edwards that's due. It's this Minnesota Timberwolves team that's due for a good shooting night. Give me the Minnesota Timberwolves tonight. Excuse me. I know all eyes are going to be on the NBA playoffs, on the NFL draft tonight, but still be sure to tune into the NBA draft, or NBA playoffs, because this is something that we're going to need to watch. On top of all of that, we haven't even gotten to the NHL. Philadelphia Flyers take a 3-0 lead last night against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Yes, the Pittsburgh Penguins decided to go up 1-0 in the first period. They also proceed to give up 3 unanswered goals in the span of 6 minutes, acting like the Boston Bruins from Game 1. The Pittsburgh Penguins, with their back against the ropes, gave up 3 goals in 6 minutes to the Philadelphia Flyers in Philadelphia, and the game was different ever since. We know how good the Flyers have been since the NHL break. They're like 22 and actually, I think they might be 23 and 6 now, including these 3 games since the Olympic break. They've been phenomenal. The Flyers end up winning this game 5-2. But when you look at how good this Flyers team is right now, they have to be up there in terms of dark horses to get to the Stanley Cup. I don't think they're going to win the cup, but in terms of getting out of the Eastern Conference, they better be dark horses. They're going to get past the Penguins in the first round. They're going to go out there and play most likely going to play the Hurricanes in the second round. We'll get to that series in a second. But this is how good they're going to play the Hurricanes toe to toe. This is going to be a phenomenal team that we're going to need. This is a physical team, honestly a team that takes advantage of moments, that's extremely lethal in the power play, has one of the best scorers in the league in Michkov. This is a team that's highly motivated. Matvei Michkov. This is a team that's highly motivated and ready to go for the playoffs. So I said going into yesterday's game, the Penguins are going to be on sweep watch. They are on official sweep watch. They're going to lose Game 4 in Philly. Thank God it's not going to be in Pittsburgh, because that was the worst thing you'd need for a Pittsburgh Penguins team that's played pretty decent hockey this year. I mean, they did win. They finished second in the Metro. They had a great season. They won 40 games. They scored 100 points. They scored 98 points, excuse me. But they also lost 3 games in a row. They've lost 3 games in a row to close out the season. They've lost 3 games in a row now to the Philadelphia Flyers, and they're going to lose again on Saturday night. So, that's all I got for that series. That series is unfortunately done deal, over and done with, and I'm already looking for the Flyers in the next round of the playoffs. I'm not picking them against the Hurricanes, but would I be shocked if they beat the Hurricanes in 7 games? No. I'm going to say that series is going to be long. It's going to be 6 or 7 games. It's going to be hard fought. But the Flyers are not going to go down that easy throughout the rest of these playoffs. It's just not going to happen. Going to the next game tonight, or last night I should say, I'm going to wait for that double overtime game. Don't you worry. Let's get to the Ducks and Oilers first. Ducks and Oilers take an early 2-0 lead. They're going back and forth. But the Oilers could play really good hockey to start off the game. Anaheim decides to score 3 goals in the second period. Both teams just throwing haymakers at one another. I think it was 4-3 going to the third in favor of Anaheim. Oilers score first, tie up the game, and then in the final 4 minutes of the game, it was Anaheim that put 2 more goals in. I told you this was an Anaheim team that was going to play a shootout style of a game. I told you this is an Anaheim team that could put pucks in the back of the net, and if the Oilers are going to want to win this series, they need to match up with them offensively. It's not just about the defense anymore, because at the end of the day, the Ducks are going to put pucks in the back of the net. You're not going to stop them for 3 straight periods. You got lucky in game 1, come back from a deficit, score two goals in the third period, score the go-ahead goal in game 1 with under 2 to play, and steal game 1 on your home ice. You lose game 2, sending it back to Anaheim, tied at 1 game apiece, and you're now looking at a completely different series. If you're the Oilers, you have to go out there and you have to at least split in Anaheim. I would say your best bet is you're probably not going to win game 3 because Anaheim is going to welcome this Ducks team in open arms. This Ducks team is not something you want to play with. They're probably, outside of the Colorado Avalanche, they're probably the second best offense in the NHL this year. In terms of efficiency, in terms of putting pucks in the back of the net, in terms of points per game, goals per game, they're up there with the Colorado Avalanche in terms of how good they are offensively. Now, they don't have a guy like Connor McDavid. They don't have a guy like Leon Draisaitl. But they do have guys like Cutter Gauthier. I'm probably butchering that name. I apologize. And all around, this team is still young, but they have the guys to be successful. They have a young team. They're gaining confidence by the game, going up against a team in the Edmonton Oilers that were just in the Stanley Cup last year. This is a Ducks team that's going to give Edmonton everything that can handle. I'm going to pick Anaheim to win Game 3. I picked Anaheim to win Game 2. And I think they're going to continue to play good hockey. I picked the Oilers to win this series, but I don't think the Anaheim's going to go down without a fight. I'm telling you. I think it's going to be another comeback series win for the Oilers. I think as this series draws on, the Oilers continue to learn more about the Ducks. The Ducks kind of get a little bit of overconfidence going. And then the Oilers just pull the rug on them as the series draws on into Game 5 and Game 6. That's all I'm going to say. I think the experience. I'm going with the experience in this series, but don't count out Anaheim whatsoever. Let's switch gears over to the best game though last night. The best game last night was the game that went into double overtime. The best game last night was between the Dallas Stars, the best series in the NHL playoffs right now, between the Dallas Stars and the Minnesota Wild. I mean, Dallas going up 2-0 to start the game, and then Minnesota hitting that double doink goal, followed by the Johansson goal that evened up the game. If you look at the goal by Michael McCarron that he put in the back of the net early in the second period, I mean, my God. I mean, you can't talk about a more picture-perfect goal by Michael McCarron. If a lot of people didn't stay up to watch that game, I don't blame them at all. The game ran until almost 2 a.m. last night, but it was a phenomenal game all the way down, all the way through. This is a Minnesota Wild team I picked to win this game, but for Dallas to go out there and win on the power play, you knew it was going to come down to a power play when it got that late in the game. When the clock turned to 1 a.m. over there in Minnesota, you knew it was going to get rough for these players. It was just getting the time was getting too long. It was drawn on way too long, and it was the plays that Mikko Rantanen made late in this game that ultimately won it for the Dallas Stars. That's just what it was. The Minnesota Wild had their opportunities from late through the third period all the way through the first overtime. Honestly, Minnesota dominated them in the first overtime, and it was just Ottinger playing on his head. Both of these goalies, him and Wallstead, playing on their heads. But you have to give Ottinger credit. You have to give this Dallas Stars team credit from bouncing back from Game 1, losing Game 1 6-1, winning Game 2 by the skin of their teeth, and now winning the first game of Game 3, taking home ice back, putting Minnesota back on the brink of elimination. If they go down 3-1, I'm not picking Minnesota to come back and win 3 out of 4 against this Dallas Stars team. The Stars are just too good. They're too experienced. They have a lot of guys that are hungry and ready to go for this moment. It's why I picked the Stars to ultimately win this series. They have the goal scorers all the way around. But you have to give Quinn Hughes and the Wild credit. They played their heart out. You can't count them out. I mean, the way that Matt Boldy was playing, he was on a mission in this game. He was on an absolute mission in this game. He gave the Stars everything that they could handle. But ultimately, it was Mikko Rantanen that hit the game-winning shot. And it was going to be nobody else than a guy like Mikko Rantanen with the experience that he has with this team. That was from the years that he was with the Colorado Avalanche. That's the reason why the Stars decided to trade for him at the trade deadline, and he's been an absolute godsend gift for this Stars team and continues to be so. The Stars take a 2-1 series lead, and this is going to be, if the Stars can go out there and win Game 4, I'm not going to pick them to win Game 4. But that is going to be the game that can change the entire series. If Dallas goes out there and wins, this series is over. If Minnesota can win Game 4, like they were supposed to win Game 3, this becomes a brand new best-of-3 series going back to Dallas. Completely different complexion. But that's 3 games from last night. Let's get to tonight really quick. Sabres at the Bruins tonight. Bruins get home ice back. Give me the Bruins to beat the Sabres. I think the Sabres first of all, the Bruins are going to be welcomed with a standing ovation back in Boston, the way that they played in Game 2. After the way that they lost Game 1, giving up 4 goals in 5 minutes, going out there and beating the brakes off the Sabres in Game 2, I think the Bruins are going to be welcomed with open arms in Game 3. They're going to go out there and win Game 3 in, I won't say decisive fashion, but I think the Sabres are going to see what it's like to play on the road for the first time in a playoff game. Playing on the road in an NHL playoff game is just flat out different. The Bruins had the experience. That's why they played the Sabres so tough in Buffalo. They have the experience to go along with their physical play and their talent. The Sabres don't have that experience. And that's going to be the difference maker in this series. That's why a lot of people have Boston beaten Buffalo in the first round, because of that experience. So I think Boston's going to go out there and win Game 3 tonight. You have the Hurricanes and the Senators. Same thing. Well, not same thing, but Ottawa playing the Hurricanes really tough in Game 2, sending that series to a double overtime. The Hurricanes ultimately won, but doesn't matter. I think Ottawa goes out there and wins tonight. They almost beat the Hurricanes in Game 2, almost stole that game. I think they win Game 3, and then we look at Game 4 into how this series continues to play out. If it's 2-2 going back to Carolina, it's a completely different series. But if it's 3-1 going back to Carolina, this series ends in 5 games for the Hurricanes. And finally, possibly the best game of the night. What we've seen the Kings do in Colorado was nothing short of exceptional level of hockey. Going up 1-0 with 6 minutes to play in the third period in Game 2 was unbelievable for that Kings team. And they tried to fend off that Avalanche offense. They did for 2 minutes until the Avalanche scored the game-tying goal and then won in overtime. But this series transitions back to LA. I've said it before. Anze Kopitar is going to play this team really tough this year. He's been one of the best team players in the entire league. Adrian Kemp is still playing with him. This Kings team is still really loaded if you look, with Quentin Byfield and Trevor Moore and the rest of the squad that they have over there in LA. They have been playing playoff hockey since the Olympic playoff break, since the Olympic break. So I think they're going to be ready to go for this moment. I think LA wins tonight and sends this series to Game 4 with a chance to tie it. I don't think they're going to tie it, but they're not going to get swept. A lot of people have the LA Kings on sweep watch. Yes, they're down 2-0, but I don't think this series is going to be a sweep. I think that the Kings have proven enough. They've played good enough hockey. They've played complete hockey throughout throughout both of these games that they played in Colorado. Colorado has done the same. They're the better team. That's why they're up 2-0. But I think LA gets them tonight. I think LA gets them and ends those rumors and finally ends the sweep, whatever you want to call them, rumors, thought process, predictions, whatever you want to call them. But that's all I got for the NHL tonight. Those are my picks with the Kings, the Bruins, and the Senators. All three home teams winning tonight. The Avalanche could go out there and win. But I'm going to roll with the underdog in that game. I'm just going to roll with the underdog. In the NBA, I go with the Hawks, the Raptors, and the Minnesota Timberwolves. All three being home teams. So I'm rolling with home teams all the way throughout the stretch. I think the home teams have a really good shot of winning in the NBA tonight. Maybe the Cavs go out there and beat the Raptors. But I think the biggest game that I'm probably going to miss out on in terms of picks is probably going to be the Avalanche Kings. I went 6-1 last night, if that helps. So we'll see how it plays. I could have gone 7-0 if the Wild could go out there, could have gone out there and won that game. But that game was too close down the stretch. I don't even mind it. It was a phenomenal game. It's going to be a phenomenal game. Be sure to check out the live later tonight with me, Jeremy, and Nolan. I don't know if I'll have Nolan, but I'll probably have Jeremy with me. We'll be live reacting to the NFL draft. I'll be back live. I'll probably stay live for the NBA and NHL games, at least up until midnight. For at least the first round of those games, I'll be live. Be sure to drop a follow, like, let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day. Peace.